Wow. My dog just snuck up and hit me in the small of the back with a very cold nose.
Okay, we're right on time here. I'll text Brian on the side, but I think we've got, just want to double check.
Not this started.
Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got five, so we've got quorum. Um, so Dr. Rinaldi, if you want, we can go ahead and read in and get started.
Excellent. All right. Well, for the call to order, public session is scheduled to start at 8:30 a.m. and will continue until the end of business. Executive session, which is closed to the public, will follow, continuing until the end of business. The board expects to come out of executive session and into public session for the purpose of voting on the cases discussed during executive session and other applicable board business. Moving over to roll call. Um, uh, um, Executive Director Pete Burns,
Here,
Investigator Janine Holland,
I'm here.
Investigator Regina Greyhill.
I'm here.
A little echo on that one. Um, Inspector Charles Esparza.
I'm here.
Excellent, thank you. Licensing Administrator Brooke Walker.
I'm here.
Excellent, thank you. Over to board members, Dr. Reagan Borzik.
Here.
Thank you. Dr. Hamilton is absent today. Natalie Mayer Williamson.
Here.
Thank you. Karen Pate.
Here.
Thank you. Dr. Katie Wallace.
Here.
Thank you. Brian Wadika. Oh, that's right. Of course, Brian is running about 5 minutes late. I think he just texted, so we'll see him in a few. And then myself, Max Rinaldi, I'm here as well. All right. So going back over I think we're going to go back to section 4 and hit a couple of the letters. Where we're going to start with, I think you've got the Merle Weiner written prescription document up. Is that what I'm looking for? Yeah. All right. We went through this a little bit yesterday, but I think good to recap now that Dr. Wallace is here uh, um, to read through. And I think really, as this is part of public comment, the goal here is to kind of be aware of it, and then if anybody wants to bring it back for discussion, we can add it to the agenda. Um, so I can give everybody a couple of minutes, especially Dr. Wallace, if there's anything that you um, wanted to call out, by all means, do so.
My iPad was AWOL this time. I just got it open this morning, so I haven't
Oh,
seen any of this. But just trying to read this real quick. I think
yeah,
the board has a general position of staying out of managing fees and that type of stuff in practices. It's our job is the monitoring of the practice of veterinary medicine, and the fees and the financial part is not under our jurisdiction. Was there input from Joanna that I missed regarding that?
Oh, this is
we've not,
Joanna. This would be a policy call for you all.
yeah, and we've not discussed it further than just kind of looking through it yesterday. And so we can discuss a little bit more today if you guys decide. We do get calls on this regularly, and that's been our position that it's fee related and we really don't have the jurisdiction there. So if the board sees something here that they'd like to pursue more or look into more, they can direct me to do research or get more info or make this an agenda item, whatever you guys feel. But just want to make sure you guys have a chance to look at it and discuss.
any other input from anybody else, I'm looking in particular at our public members as well, just to kind of get their input as far as scope and that sort of a thing.
This is Reagan, or Dr. Borzik. I I feel like it's fair for the clinics to charge a fee for the prescription. You know, they do have to take staff time to be able to put those together. Uh, Maybe some details in terms of how much to charge, which I would echo Dr. Katie's. Sorry, Pete, were you trying to say something?
No, sorry, I'm not. I'm just picking up.
I would echo Dr. Shoot. Okay, go ahead.
Very sorry. I know you're on the phone, so no, I wasn't saying anything. It's all you. Go for it.
Okay. And so I think when it comes to how much is being charged, to me, that feels like something that the board probably should stay out of. Um, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Borzik. So it sounds like from what I'm hearing, the consensus is that, we'll certainly take this on advisement and hear any future comments, but there's not a need or desire to, Natalie.
Yeah, I think I agree with both Katie and Reagan. Just it's at the discretion of the doctor, you know. Sometimes people lose their prescriptions and we have to go print another one. That means pulling a record and um et cetera, et cetera. So we never charged, but it's really up to the discretion of the doctor.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like no particular desire or need to pull this back and make it a full discussion agenda item then, from what I'm hearing, unless there's any last
Okay,
minute.
sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next on our list, we have this is the CET letter, I believe. Is that the next one?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Luke's going to bring that up.
So we scanned through this yesterday. Again, it was really just a reading. There was no discussion or comment about bringing it back for discussion, which again is kind of the goal of the public comment section. So any input from anyone or any, request or desire to add it to agenda for deeper discussion or investigation?
Dr. Rinaldi, I'm sorry, I'm almost to my computer, but could you quickly just summarize what that letter was about?
Absolutely. So this letter is from Dr. Crystal Bloodworth and Bailey Jallow, who's a CDT at the Humane Society of Central Oregon. And they are requesting that we review the application requirements for the CET certification, specifically relating to courses that are deemed approved by the OVMEB. And so they're saying that the euthanasia by injection course from the University of Florida and other similar courses are very comprehensive in what they offer, and so they're asking that we reconsider the requirement to also have the applicant complete the euthanasia technician evaluation, since those skill sets are overlapped. And there's a little more detail, but that's the gist of it.
Thank you. Can I just by my understanding that the Florida curriculum is an online curriculum and the technician evaluation is an in-person evaluation.
I'll let Natalie, I think I see she's got her hand up. She can probably answer the question maybe a little better.
I actually have no idea, but has anyone on here? I mean, I know that um, our previous president worked on this whole thing. That was her pet thing. Has anyone actually done the test or gone through any of that so can have a better opinion or?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is very much, unfortunately, very much Dr. Lamb's area of expertise, which we are now lacking. Um, I think to your question, Dr. Borzek, my understanding is that this is something that you're right that the Florida program is online, and then uh, the euthanasia technician evaluation is signing off on a skill set based on interactions in the hospital. And I think that's an important distinction here. Given that it sounds like there's not a lot of clarity on the board as far as our understanding of the specifics of this, is is there a feel that we need to bring this back for kind of investigation, discussion, thinking about it a little bit more and better understanding the current state of the rule?
Does board staff know by chance the difference between those two?
So this is Joanna, and we can look at the rule. The way you set the rule up is there's like exactly right. There's a hands-on training aspect to it, and then there's an education aspect to it. And then the board at the time had a pretty extensive debate about should they just adopt this University of Florida training by reference for the education piece. And you ended up basically looking at what the Florida training did, like what were the components, and then you put those components in your rule for the education piece. So that if somebody takes the Florida, they would satisfy the components in the rule. But yeah, the way you've currently set the rule up, there's hands-on training and then there's education. And I think what they're asking you for is to waive the hands-on, is to change your rule to get rid of the hands-on training part if somebody has education equivalent or to the Florida part.
Okay, thanks, Joanna.
Yeah, and we can look at the rule is 875-040-0010.
In that case, I feel like we shouldn't change anything. I think both components are an important aspect of making sure that someone is comfortable and competent euthanizing animals.
Oh, Dr. Wallace, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. I was reading through the rule.
No, you're good. I feel I vote to not change the rule. It is written to make sure that people who are performing euthanasia without direct veterinary oversight are safe and competent, and we need to have that hands-on piece that to prove that and protect the public and the applicant and the animals. And so at this point, my vote is to leave the rule as is.
Okay. I feel similarly. Anybody else with thoughts, addendums, and desire for further discussion? All right. Well, thank you. I do want to take a moment and welcome Brian Wadika, who has joined us now. Brian, if you just want to unmute and say hi.
Hi, I'm present.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, in which case, looking down the agenda, was there anything else out of the public comment section, Pete, that you had flagged for us to come back to?
No, I think that's it. I appreciate it. Just wanted to cover those things. I made some notes on those. We'll respond to those people that submitted that. So we're down to discussion and action items. Number 2, applicants, but I think that's just Brooke, do we need to cover anything there? That's just a placeholder on public so we can discuss it in executive on a couple application questions. Is that right, Brooke?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're jumping into rule review and I'll introduce this. I've got another document, Brooke, I'm going to share. You can have those ready. I'm going to share something first real quick to kind of just do a quick summary. Okay, can folks see that? Make it bigger, maybe. Okay. Last time we met, Joanne and I went through a long kind of list of rules, and we'd cleaned some things up, and there was a glitch, and we'd fix some of those things, and all that's gotten pretty well. It's gotten cleaned up in the OARD, the system that inputs the rules into Secretary of State. Part of the stuff that we discussed during that rule summary is still ongoing, and it's all in the normal state. We talked about some new rules. We posted it. We had a notice. We noticed it. We had a public hearing with no comment. And so now it's time to come back to the board to look at it again, make sure you guys are good with it, and then vote to make it permanent. And so those are 3 different rules we're going to look at, and they're right here. The predetermination rule on the top row. This is a result of Senate Bill 1552, which requires boards to predetermine if a criminal background check or something in the past is going to impact someone's license. We discussed this. The impact on us, I don't think would be very great. A lot of boards put in a $75 fee. We talked about that briefly. We decided we would try to do this without our fee. I don't think we get too many of these questions, and when we do, we would just process it like we normally would process a background an application in terms of the background check, which wouldn't take too much of our resources. So I think we can do it without the fee, and then if we need to, we can come back and reintroduce that fee if it's necessary. But we drafted the rule, which is kind of boilerplate for a lot of the agencies that have to implement this rule. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. I just want to introduce this. So that's ready for vote. The second one defined allied health practitioner. That's pretty straightforward. It's just in our definitions. We've made a definition for that. We can look at that. And then the last one we talked about, or the third one we talked about, provides an hour of CE for any licensee that attends a board meeting. And that's spelled out pretty clearly in that rule. So we'll take a look at those notices and see if you guys like the language. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll look at this 4th row down here with a question about VCPR, and we just have kind of a summary sheet and some rule language to look at. This one we're not going to be voting on. You're just going to be discussing it and seeing, what we want to do with that if we want to push through for further rulemaking. Okay, so I'll close this one, and Brooke, if you can bring up the predetermination notice. And Joanna, jump in if I'm missing anything through this discussion. Oh, Natalie's got a friend. Sweet. Public participation. Brooke, would you like me to throw that up? I think I can find it. Oh, so there we go. There we go. So many things going on. Okay, yeah, this is the language. The notice proposed rulemaking. December 22nd, we had a public hearing on this. No one attended, no comment received. Brooke, can you scroll down to the language of the rule? Joanna helped us draft this because a lot of boards had to implement this. You can keep going. Here we go. Joanne, do you have any other information on this? This is pretty boilerplate for just something legislatively mandated to.
I mean, if the board has any questions, basically the legislature enacted a statute that says before someone starts spending all their money on education, they can come to a board and say, because I have this criminal conviction, board, please tell me in advance if this is going to prohibit me from getting a license eventually.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Let's say somebody, comes to the board and does this thing, and the board's like, yeah, it's a little sketchy what you did in your past or whatever, but we'll let it, we won't let, it's not going to be a problem for you.
Yeah.
They go and do their 4 or 8 years of education or whatever it is, and then the board makeup changes. Is the decision locked in?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Now there are, and you can see it in the rule, like if the person didn't fully disclose everything the board at the original time knew, or if the person gets a new conviction, if those circumstances change, then of course the new board can consider new things. But if the old board with the same knowledge as this current board said, no, this isn't going to prohibit you, yeah, it's locked in.
But this only applies if they come to the board in the beginning.
Exactly. So for example, this isn't, let's say the person's got all their education and they just don't want to go through the application process. It doesn't apply there. The statute is very specific that this applies before somebody begins education.
I just have a question on tracking, maybe for Brooke. Brooke, when someone starts an application, like we would, if someone requested this, we would just create a profile in our system to track it, have notes in there to the determination. How long do those applications stay on file? Are those indefinite?
Yeah, they're indefinite.
Okay, so it would be in there. So when the person reapplied, we'd flag them, we'd see them, and then it would track this determination. So, okay, I think it'd be pretty easy to track. I think we talked about this. We don't get too many requests like this, but maybe with the new rule, the new statute, people will reach out more. But I think we're good to reassess the impact on us after a year or so.
Does anybody have any questions or thoughts about the language of the rule? Anything there that stands out that we want clarification on? All right. Well, in that case, everybody's kind of happy with where we're at.
And then we'll come back in public session at the end of the day and we'll vote on this, right, Joanna, this and the others?
It's up to you. You could vote on it now, or you could vote on it
Oh.
later. I mean, it's completely up to the board. Yeah.
And this is not to enter the rulemaking process. This is to we just need a motion to
Correct. We're in the rulemaking process. This would be a motion to adopt this rule permanently.
okay.
I so move.
Thank you, Dr. Wallace. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Brian Wadika seconds. Natalie?
Aye.
Brian Wadika?
Aye.
Dr. Wallace?
Aye.
Dr. Burzik?
Aye.
Karen Pate?
Aye.
And Dr. Rinaldi? Aye. Motion passes. All right. Thank you. The next one was
Okay, the next one is definition for allied health, I believe. Yeah, it should be down at the practitioner of allied health methods. I think it should be down at the bottom.
and this is just transcribing what we have in statute over into rule.
So this was where the board is defining in rule that the practitioner of a allied health method is a licensee from a health board.
Okay.
And then I would note, and you'll just want to put this into your motion, that it actually says correctly at the top 676-150, but in the language here, you just want to correct that typo from 686-150 to 676-150.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so when someone makes a motion, assuming you want to do that, you would just want to say, move to adopt this as amended.
And the amendment is just to change the typo from 686-150 to 676-150.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Thank you. Any comments before we proceed with the motion? Do I have a motion? Oh, Karen, did you have something?
No, I was going to move that we adopt it as amended.
Excellent. Thank you. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Natalie seconds. Natalie?
Aye.
Brian Wadika?
Aye.
Dr. Wallace?
Aye.
Dr. Borzik?
Aye.
Karen Pate?
Aye.
And Dr. Rinaldi, aye. Motion passes.
Okay, the next one is the CE for board meeting participation. And it's right there underlined. There was language related, and then it says this includes 1 hour of CE for each meeting when attending the public portion of a meeting with OVMEB, so long as the licensee attends for at least 1 hour of the meeting.
I move to adopt these
Okay.
changes.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wallace. Do we hear a second?
Can I ask you a real quick question before we adopt this?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sometimes our public portions of the meeting are very, very quick. If the public portion is not an hour, would they then not get the CE? Does that need to be spelled out, or is that understood the way it's written now?
It's a good question. I personally, I kind of think that, we need to have the hour. And if we just go through business so quickly that it doesn't last, I don't know that we can really grant that. But, by the time we do, Pete's thing and the state vet does his update, I think we're
So
most
if a licensee attended for at least 1 hour, but the meeting only went 45 minutes, they would still get credit. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Joanna, how flexible can we be on that? I mean, can we take this cumulatively if they do a couple meetings and they're shorter? I mean, we
No,
usually hit it.
so if you do want to amend it to change, this would be a change to the proposed rule. So if the board wants to add in that, it would need to go back out for public comment.
I don't know if it matters or not. I'm just thinking, occasionally we'll have a meeting that's basically all executive session and we'll start it in public because we have to. And that lasts 5 minutes and then we go to executive session. And so if I sat in on that, I said, hey, I got my CE for 5 minutes worth of work.
Oh, gotcha.
I think,
That's what I'm getting at.
right. So I think with that person, they would have to. So the only time I've really seen that happen is your special meetings, which you really are just meeting for executive session and then to vote. So yeah, I think under the way the rule's currently written, the person would not get credit for attending the 5 minutes it takes you to go into executive session and let's say 15 minutes to vote. Yeah, so the way it's currently written, they wouldn't get credit for that. If you want them to get credit for that, we can talk about how to rewrite it.
It's up to the board, but I think the expectations, are pretty minimum to extend to sit for an hour of a session. And we usually go pretty long. Sometimes it's shorter for the special ones and closing out a vote or something. But I think they'll have the opportunity to get the time and participate and kind of earn that credit or some quality time and listen to some quality deliberation, things like that.
Dr. Boris,
That's,
you had your hand
I don't
up.
have an issue with it. I was just worried that there was a loophole in the language, but if there's not, I'm fine with this.
Okay, thank you for that. Dr. Boris, I saw you had your hand up for a moment. Was there?
Pete essentially said it. I mean, I feel like even if we have a 30-minute public and they have to come back for another 30 minutes at another date, feels like a pretty easy lift. It's a remote meeting that can be joined pretty easily. So I do think sticking to the 1 hour, and it sounds like the way it's written keeps it that it has to be an hour. I think that's reasonable.
All right. Well, do we have a motion to adopt this as a permanent rule?
I so move.
Brian moves. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Dr. Korzik seconds. Natalie?
Aye.
Brian Wadika?
Aye.
Dr. Katie Wallace?
Aye.
Dr. Reagan Borzik?
Aye.
Karen Pate?
Aye.
And Max Rinaldi? Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, the next item is a summary sheet, still under rule review. I think that's on the packet. Brooke, maybe just scroll down. Here we go. Overview of rule concept, challenges and options. Okay, Joanna and I put this together. It kind of lays out the issue related to herds and flocks. Joanna determines this is a policy call for us, and then there's the 1 and 2 options there.
So this is Joanna. So really the policy call that we need to know from you is, do you want this medically appropriate and timely visit alternative to the physical examination to only apply to herd and flock animals, or do you want it to apply more generally?
As someone who does mixed animal, I would say only herd and flock animals.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So as the rule is written, if I wanted to establish a VCPR for a dog, I could say, well, I went to that dog's house, but I didn't necessarily do a physical examination. Is that what's up for question?
Or I feel like where I've heard this come up is horses.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a reasonable call out. Any comments. This might be one where we want to go around the room. But actually, oh, sorry, Dr. Wallace, looks like you had something you wanted to say.
Well, I was gonna say under law, horses are considered livestock, so they would qualify as a herd or flock animal, correct?
So that would depend if they meet your current definition of herd or flock animal, which is animals four or more of the same species managed as a group, including but not limited to breeding, sales, show, food production, or racing. The veterinarian shall have discretion to determine herd or flock status for provision of veterinary medical care and record keeping.
So if I manage a racing stable, then that's a flock. But
Herd, yeah.
if I just have a horse in my backyard, that would not be.
Unless your discretion says otherwise, right?
Right. So that would be a question like maybe that needs clarifying too. So let's say you have 5 horses that are all just your individual horses. So I don't know, kind of would they be managed as a group? I don't know.
Yeah, but I think they're still legally livestock.
Right. But I'm saying is livestock
So the
isn't
number
any-
doesn't matter.
No, it does.
Number,
But the issue is how you all have defined herd or flock animal. You don't have the word livestock in your definition at all. So maybe you want to change your definition of herd or flock. That would be up to you.
So because we have 4 or more in our herd or flock definition, is that the sticking point?
Well, so right now it's on the screen. That is the current way the board has defined herd or flock. I mean, if you're good with that definition, or you want to change it, that's all up to you as well.
Not to, it was kind of a question of, by this definition of herd or flock animal, if I show dogs and I have, say, 6, I don't know, it doesn't really matter the breed because we specify species. If I have 6 show dogs that I'm managing together, that fits the definition of herd animal. It doesn't seem quite right to me. I'm sorry. Let's. I said we should go. We should kind of go around the room. Natalie, do you want to chime in?
I'm okay with it. I don't know if you want to change the definition of herd, but I'm totally fine with the change here.
Okay. Brian?
The herd or flock animal is kind of wide open for multiple. You go multiple interpretations of that, which sometimes is good, but also it could paint us in the corners and put us into situations where we didn't intend to be in, I think, too. So I kind of think maybe tightening that up somehow, like you said, because it says nothing about species, just that they're the same species. So, like you said, a dog breeder could get their whole dog, whole thing seen. So, I'd kind of prefer to change that or tighten it up.
Well, we could take this back for another iteration, spend some time on some options for herd and flock, get some ideas, and then schedule this for a little more time where we have bring back some new language suggestions, have a little bit more time to deliberate. And then, it's just the rule, it's the start of the rulemaking process. We don't, we wouldn't, later we can go into the public hearing step and all that stuff too. So this is just initial discussions.
Right. Well, let me ask a question though. Obviously, it sounds like there's some open questions about how you wanted to define herd or flock, but do you think the alternative to a physical examination should only apply to herd or flock, or do you think it should be more open? That as long as a vet is making medically appropriate and timely visits to a premises where the animal is kept, they don't have to do a physical exam, or would you only want that to apply to herd or flock with the question of how you define herd or flock?
Dr. Wallace, I think I saw your hand up first.
Do we have any history on the purpose of this rule? I mean, in reading the term herd or flock, that implies to me a food production system. Because I got plenty of clients who got 10 working dogs and 20 barn cats that could be considered a herd of cats. I mean, the terminology of herd or flock to me implies the food producing or livestock end of things. So I just was trying to figure out if there was some history on what the intent of the rule was there.
Dr. Korzik?
I feel like that it feels like I read it similarly to Dr. Wallace, like the intent of the language was that it only pertained to livestock. And then I also agree with Brian that if that seems like the intent of past, rulemaking and that's sort of our intent as a group, then I think we need to revisit this and shore it up a little bit better.
Okay. And Dr. Wallace, kind of going back to what you said and kind of the common understanding of what a herd or a flock is, would you be like, if we brought back language, would you be looking for something like, four or more of the same species of a type, commonly considered to be a food or production animal? Would that sort of language be what you're looking for there?
Yeah, I mean, we just, like Joanna brought up, the part of the horses are legally considered livestock, so they would then be included in the group.
Well, and that's why I suppose I left the word livestock out of what I said. It's
Yeah.
like food/production, which
hmm
might extend to horses under specific circumstances, but
Well, I do a lot of work at the BLM horse corrals, and there's 800 horses there. It's
yeah.
different.
Well, that's why I think you have your experience here is certainly invaluable for this conversation because a lot of things that I don't think about.
I
Karen,
wish
sorry, go
Brett
ahead.
was here because I bet he's got opinion.
Sure. Well, again, we're not making specific rules here. We're just, this will come back for discussion. Karen, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I agree with the broader conversation, but I'm just wondering, a question for Joanna. When we have the line saying the veterinarian shall have the discretion to determine herd or flock status, if I go to your house and say, this is my herd of 6 dogs, the veterinarian can say, no, that's not a herd.
Well, or I actually think the way for you that would come up would be the opposite. If you want to discipline a veterinarian for not keeping good records on those 6 dogs, the rule gives him the ability to say, "Hey, I determined that this was a herd or flock."
Okay, I get it. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay, yeah.
Um, and bringing this back up into broader view, and I think Joanna kind of brought this up as a point that we're kind of there's kind of 2 different discussions here. One is the discussion on herd or flock animal, which I think is very valid and I think actually deserves a little investigation. But there was kind of this broader the initial question was, do we define the requirement for timely visits to where the animal is kept, specifically to what we have defined as a herd or flock animal? I haven't really heard any objection to that line of thinking or need to edit that way of thinking. It sounds like the consensus is good there.
So let me just clarify, because right now that definition of VCPR does not reference herd or flock at all. So do you want that reference? Do you want to see language where herd or flock, where it says medically appropriate and timely visits to the premises where a herd or flock is kept? Or do you want it to, right now it's broader?
I think when that has briefly been touched on in this discussion. It sounds like the feeling was that we did want to strictly define that to the herder flock. But anybody want to weigh in on that? Any objections to that line of thinking? Okay. Is this something that we have to move to enter the rulemaking process, or is this something where we just want to bring back some language that we then need to vote on?
So I think so. Last time you'd asked to see language, but the problem was these are policy. We can't really, Pete and I can't draft language without knowing what policy calls you want to see in the language.
Gotcha.
So it sounds like, I wonder on the herder flock animal, I wonder how other states define it. That might be interesting.
Well, I was thinking one
yeah.
thing I can do is
Yeah.
talk to other jurisdictions, especially our regional partners here, our counterparts here, check with OVMA. Anything that impacts VCPR language is going to attract a lot of interest, appropriately so. So yeah, I think it's still in just exploratory realm right now, and get some input from those stakeholders and bring it back for the next phase of discussion.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, then I see some thumbs up. Looks like everybody's happy. With that, any final comments before I move on? All right. Excellent. Is that all we have for the rules update?
That is it, and I believe that's all we have for our public session.
Okay.
The last item there is just a reminder of our scheduled board meeting.
Okay. All right. Next board meeting, March 11th and 12th. And move to executive session. Are you ready to read that in? Okay. The Oregon Veterinary Medical Examining Board will now go into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602L, ORS 192.6602F, ORS 192.6602H, and 676.1751 concerning discipline, litigation, and exempt public records. Representatives of the news media and designated staff will be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision will be made in executive session. At the end of the session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. All right. Excellent. Well, we'll see you all momentarily in executive session.